Hello, so this is just a follow-up video on how to create our gear profile, which we are going to have a look at now. So this is our gear drawing that's been sent to us, and this is obviously a typical kind of sprocket style gear with a nice cross-sectional profile for us to view as well. So just to want to point out some of the key features that we've spotted when we've deconstructed this drawing is that just want to point out that when you come into the thread, which are the holes here, which we can clearly see on our cutout, is actually that our thread doesn't actually come all the way down to the bottom of our drilled hole. Also, whilst we're into sort of this zoom and magnification, our 7, 12 through holes which sit at the top of our sprocket are 30 degrees away from our X or our horizontal sort of identification line. Down the bottom is we have a asymmetric, so a non-symmetrical sprocket, where actually the bottom half of the sprocket is actually wider in this view than the actual top. So these features down the bottom are separate to the ones across on top. Lastly, I just want to point out that also we have a 8x2 keyway which sits above the top of our initial sprocket, which obviously will sit onto some sort of transmission shaft, and actually the top of the sprocket is scalloped by an R10 on both sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some key dimensions. Obviously I'm going to start off with the R95. Obviously the width of the initial sprocket section is 6, and then 21 for the overall profile width from sort of edge to edge. So I'm going to use Fusion 360 for this one, and again, if you're not sort of happy with sort of Fusion 360, you can look at the other videos that we've created on how to use some of the functions we're going to use today. So from my drawing, obviously this is the front view, so that's going to be where I'm going to start building my sort of starting blocks. I'm going to draw on the front view, going to zoom in, center diameter center, so circle center diameter, and going to use the tool here to do a lot of the maths for me. So obviously 95 times 2 to make the R95, so 190 in total. And I'm going to extrude this one, so I'm going to do pretty much an additive method here on this gear. So I'm going to go for obviously 6mm to start off with, which is the main profile. Next I'm going to draw on my surface. Okay, now I'm going to do the remaining section to build up to 21 profile, which has a diameter of 64. So again, 64 in the center, solid, use my extrude tool, and also that's obviously all got 6, so use the function 21 minus 6 on a join, which will then give us the correct profile coming outwards, like so. So I'm going to try and do as many features as I can to keep the features tab down the bottom as small as possible. So I'm going to do the features on the front. So I'm just going to draw the big hole within the center. I mean, it's a through hole, as we can see, with the 8x2 keyway on top. So that's an R16. So again, just so we can make sure that we're not deviant from the drawing, I'm just going to put R16 in. And I'm simply going to draw my keyway on top. So I'm going to draw a construction line. So I'm on my line tool, if I hit the tool over here, construction, from the center, just running up. I'll put a nice construction line in there for us. So I'm just going to zoom in so you can see what I'm going to do. So we've got an 8x2 keyway, so I'm going to do a 4mm either side. I'm leaving this as a construction, as you can see. It's not meant to be angled. Just going to drag it up so go back in line, and I'm going to use my rectangle tool to basically come on the feature. Now obviously that's still coming first, get some construction, so I'm just going to turn off my construction to make it back a fixed shape. Now I'm going to drop this down 2, so it's 8 by 2. Lock them both in, which we've now done. And the beauty with them, obviously I haven't got anything to specify the distance away from my circle. So all I'm going to do is going to drag my profile down and zoom into it, it overhangs. So I'm going to simply just use the trim tool to trim out the early sections of my rectangle. I'm just going to continue to lower these down. I'm not trying to do that trim like so, just so that they interfere. And I've just lost that dimension because I've moved it from a rectangle. So I'm just going to put that dimension back in. So put that back as 2 just to make sure it overlaps. Once again, I'm just going to trim out my circle to make the keyway. I'm going to trim out the edge, which will then actually remove my actual dimension lines. So I'm going to put my dimension lines back in, put that as 2, and then I can put a constraint in if I need to, but these sides have already got the constraint locked, which is obviously going to be 2 again. So there is my 8 by 2 keyway in that section there as well. So now I've done that part, go into the extrude function, go to cut, distance through all, flip it so you can see through, and then OK, and there's our shape of our 8 by 2 keyway. So now I'm going to focus on doing my bolt holes. So I'm just going to go back to the drawing. I've obviously got a series of bolt holes running around here, which has obviously got the depths of 15 and 12, and it's an M6 on a 50 diameter PCD. So on that surface, right click, create a new sketch. Again with a construction line on, and put a 50 circle diameter in. I'm going to put my first point on the top here, but I'm just going to put another construction line in to lock it onto the 90, and then put a point on the center. I'm going to finish that sketch. Now I'm going to go into the hole function. I'm going to select the first placement on that face, and my first reference will be that point that I created earlier. Come down, you can choose a tap function. I'm going to choose a distance on this one, and then I'm going to choose the offset for the actual thread. So we know that the thread's going to go down 12 mil and the hole is going to go down 15 mil. I'm going to choose 6 profile, M6 by 1 by 6H. I'm happy with that. So that's my first hole. Now if I come under and do the pattern function, circular pattern, I'm going to choose the features tab, select my hole as my first feature. The axis, I can choose the edge of my circle. And I believe I need 8 of these, 8 in general. So I'm going to pop 8 in there. And 8 then appear like so. So again, there's my 8 holes, which I've obviously just done a pattern off that particular process. Next up, back to my drawing. Okay, I'm just going to work outwards now, so I'm going to put the first holes in up in here. So remembering that these are all 30° apart, okay, judging by that section there. So I'm going to draw a new sketch on that surface. Okay, so the pitch circle diameter of this one is 127. So my construction line still on. 127. And I'm going to do a construction line up to the top. Construction line. This time on both sides, so I know I'm working in that area. So I'm going to put a point on my 3 construction lines here, and what I'm going to do is then do a circular pattern of this one by an angle off of the center point. So I only want one of these. So sometimes you have to re-click on the angle to make the angle actually appear. Sometimes it's not very counterintuitive here. So I'm going to put quantity of 2 in, which then select the first 2 holes. So I know that that hole there and that hole there is going to be 30 degrees. And just to test that out, I'm just going to draw a line in that section and measure between the 2. I know that that there is 30 degrees as well. So I'm going to just mirror that because I can test later that that is actually correct. Okay, I'll put my measurement back in there as well. Just so I can make sure that all of my holes fit up on the right axis. So I'm going to finish that sketch there. I've got 30, obviously 90 from 880 and another 30 from that line there. So when I come into my hole, this time I've got 7 holes, 12 all the way through on my PCD. So just a simple hole this time, simple through. Choose that face, select my hole, and the distance this time is through all, and the size is going to be 12 mil. And I'm going to hit the OK. Now when I go to my circular pattern, I'm now going to choose my last hole. That's my feature, the axis, can run along the outside here. Obviously this is put 3 in, so there'll be 1 down here somewhere. Yes, 1, 2, 3. So this time I need angle again. Angle of 30 degrees. And now I need 7. And what it's done is it's put all of them within 30 degrees of this hole, but obviously over the whole hole we have a larger span. So over the whole span, obviously we need 210 degrees if it's on a full 360 degree circle, if they're obviously the 30 mil apart. So a good way to do it is the reason why we put both sides in is that actually then you can find the total angle by matching up the 2 sides of being 30 degrees. And obviously then adjust it as per you need, like so. What it doesn't actually show you on here is point to point. It obviously isn't quite 30 degrees. It's obviously between this hole and the third hole is 30 degrees. That hole and the third hole is 30 degrees. So actually these are 15 degrees apart. Hence why it's obviously that value there. So those are the holes. Okay, so we've done middle, we've done our bolt holes, and the feature holes. So now we can either start working on this particular hole setup, or we can start on the scallop. So I'm going to do below first. So I'm just going to zoom into this section so I can see it more clearly. Okay, and these are some of the features I've got. So this particular feature hole here is obviously 28.5 on a radius, obviously double. I then have these features are obviously then 12mm, the others are 6. This particular feature here is obviously on R70, and obviously this hole then we already know is 64. So again, make sure we're on the right face, this face here. I'm just going to turn off that 4th and 5th sketch. I've got a nice clear profile to work on. So the first thing I want to do is draw around my profile there. So that's my first hole. I can drop a construction line down 54 to get the center of my next hole, which will then be here. So 54 dropping down, and that's a 38 diameter hole there. So I'm going to put a 38 diameter hole. Make sure you change it back to a feature, not construction. And then this one here, obviously we have a 28.5 to put in as well. So I'm just going to simply do as per the drawing, 28.5 asterisk 2 to get the double. Obviously 57. So one of the first features we can realize that there's an overlap. So obviously we could technically come in and trim out that overlap, like so, and just sort of break away the constraints in that operation. You could actually also put a mirror in, so you could just do one side and mirror it as well if that's a particular function that you want. So you could technically drag the construction line down further, all the way to the end, and you could actually trim out all of this side and mirror it across as well, which again could be a way that you find it easier to do. So from the center of a hole, we need to put the 70 in. So from the center of the hole, I'm going to work on the left side for this. I'm going to put 70 in, which is obviously R70. So what times that by 2. Change that back to a line there. And then this particular section here, we have an unspecified height. So again, it doesn't tell us what scale it is. I think it's a 1 to 1.5 scale. It doesn't say that it's accurate, so we need to do some presumptions here. So you can see that the arc essentially should be able to fit. The arc can be from that possible center line. It could just look a bit coincidental, but we know that realistically to get an R6 in on a radius, it has to at least be 3mm above this line at the very least. So we can start to plan that in a second. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to run a construction line. Oh, I'm only working on this left hand edge. Construction. Like so. So now I can basically start working on trimming down that function. So I'm just going to pop another construction line in here. Now I anticipate this is going to be at least 6mm above. So I'm going to do my trim line. That should be 6mm between the two. Yeah, it is. So I can just know I can trim out that function there. I know I've still got that correct line in play. Now I could now actually turn that back into a normal line, and then obviously then trim that apart, so I haven't got to then obviously recreate that middle shape there. So using the fillet tool, I know that that line and that line is a 12. Okay, I know that inside here, if you pick up the shape, so it still doesn't seem to. I haven't trimmed, that's why. So let me just trim. Just break that shape. So it's going to be a 6mm. like so. So that should still be picking it up, which it has. I'm going to trim that shape out again. That's a 6mm. Okay, and then my final one. Up the top here is another 6mm. So now what I need to do is just finish off my trimming. So I'm going to get rid of that hole. So I've just got basically everything left hand side of on the line now. Use the mirror tool. So if I just do a bit of a rough selection there. I think that may have counts that. I think that's just a dimension line now, isn't it? So I need to just quickly put that line back in. Just change up from construction to solid, trim that down like so. Now when I mirror, it should be all quite nice now if I just do a drag selection. Just gonna take that line off, mirror around that line there, okay the feature. Like so, now I just got to remember to trim out that line, trim out that line. So that's all one object, that's obviously one object as well. So this is where now we come into our features, and you can either extrude first or you can cut first. So let's cut first. Like so. And now we just got to come in. I'm going to copy that sketch. If it would let me copy it. Let me copy it. So what I just need to do, create another sketch, turn on that sketch, and then I've just got to quickly map out 57, 28.5 times 2, 57. And then I've just got to copy that and that one over. Like so, and then I can just sort of trim. Chart those features and then just make that and extrude. Like so. So just going to come to the side view. So obviously this is the 14 that we're putting up minus the 6. So 14 minus the 6. And then if we just do a quick check, turn the sketches off from the right, that's now a nice profile in. And last thing to do is we just need to scallop this edge. Now this is the more funner part. So looking at the drawing, okay, we know that we've got to put a 20 lots of R9, so obviously that was 9mm. It's on a 95 PCD, but we don't know where that 95 starts, so we're sort of presuming maybe 95 from one of these faces up here. So again, we can obviously use the R95, so 190 as a reference anyway. So start a new sketch. Okay, we're drawing straight on the top, so I can want to convert this. So paste, paste, paste. I want that to be a construction line. Okay, so I can just edit it so you can see the construction line sat on the top. Like last time, I'm going to draw a construction line from the center, just above my part as well. So from that point on the top, we know it's going to be R9, so 18 diameter. On the top there, so we know we're basically cutting out that shape into our cut. Make sure you just do the whole shape just to be sure, don't leave any gaps. Like so. Now we're going to come into our circle pattern. Features will be the last cut feature. Axis, we can roll it around the top axis. We are obviously going to need 20 of these, like so. Now the final part is we've got to scallop or remove that material that affects that edgeway, so it's quite clear on the side that it is an R10 scalloped through. So we know that it's only 2 mil wide, so it's quite a bit of a hash to scallop away now. So coming from the right edge, we'll scallop that section away, which isn't too bad. So what we're going to do on our right feature is start sketch on the right hand plane. So I'm going to come up right to the top of my shape. So we know we have to basically going to draw a series of construction lines again, link into the edge of my shape. This is only going to link onto a snap point anyway, so I'm going to draw it above my shape. So do 2 mil. Just zoom out now. From that point I just had, we another 2 mil for the bit I want to keep, and the last line on another 2 mil. So that's essentially the profile of my shape. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do that point needs to do a reference to that edge. So if I just do a contour tool and then an equal, I can't move it away from that edge, which is fine for the second. So from this point I need to then come down a specified distance, which I don't know yet. Okay, and I can still move this around. So if I put that point there, and this section there needs to be vertically in there. It's still not liking that link, is it? So let me just do that one, and let's do a coincidental then. so it coincides right on the point, which means it's now locked straight on top. I'm just going to go back to my drawing. Okay, so we know that obviously that's 10 coming off. We know that's 9, so we can anticipate really from our top that it's going to be quite a fair drop down. So we know that whole circle is 9, so we're looking at 4 mil. So we sort of work this out. And really, but there is actually no specified height because obviously the guys will use an R10 to cut out the correct profile. So we're going to apply a dimension there of 3.5 because that should suit our R10 quite nicely. So our R10 links straight from the required sort of depth. So basically we come in, we draw an arc, a tangent arc from that point out. I'm just going to make it oversized at this current moment in time. And just put a measurement and call that R10. So again, these are all construction lines at this current minute in time. So now what we can do is we can draw around the edge, make it intersect that component. We can then trim that down. That one and that one can now become fixed geometry. Like so, and we should be able to, once we change everything, just trim that last piece. Okay, we just need to pick up, so we've still got an open region here, I think. It's fairly close there, just checking my regions. Again, that looks fairly neat and tidy. So that looks fine. So now when we go into our sweep profile, still let's pick up that profile, so let's just double check that we are fully enclosed. Get rid of that one and that one for a second, and then latch on to that. And I'm going to extend past like so, just to make sure it's off that profile. There we go, it's narrow and enclosed shape. Like so. So now we're going to go into solid, revolve, cut. Just going to spin it around and choose my profile. So we're going to come off the center. Okay, so that will obviously then scallop that edge. And I don't know if you can pick up, but we're already going to miss past that feature, but so we need to edit that one, which I'll do now. So I'm just going to go back into the sketch, edit the sketch, come back up to the top, and all we're going to do is just slightly lift that bar now up, and obviously now that dimension's affecting that particular process. We're going to undo that one because obviously that's going to be 2 mil away at all times. So that link then that we originally put in is fine, so we just need to temporarily delete that. Lift the dimension up. Okay, we still want to keep that 2 mil. So it's really important that we re-put that dimension back in if we can. 2, because it locks our sketch in place. Finish the sketch. And we've still got a little profile, so obviously just need to go back into the revolve feature. It's still not high enough, so it's going to go. Slightly higher, just remembering that function put that down to 3, just shrink it down slightly. There we go. So if we now come back and look at that feature, and there's a nice scallop. So the scallop is actually too far down now, because if you look at where the hole is, obviously the scallop then comes around the hole and just sits just above the other hole, and I think ours is fine like that position there. So the last thing to do is obviously we need to do the other side. The easiest way to do the other side is we're going to put a mid plane in. Okay, so we're going to choose the front face, the back face, which put a plane in the middle. We're going to come into create, modify, let's create the mirror, choose our features like what we did last time, choose a revolve, select the mirror plane, choose a plane, and accept the opposite feature on the other side, like so. And all we're going to do is obviously go into construction to turn our new plane off, and that's our wheel done. So now you can output a drawing and make sure then you can create and edit any particular process. So that's how you do a fairly additive way to create your wheel. So have fun, see if you can recreate that particular drawing off of our set drawing that we received. Any questions? Let me know.